as we study today. Please open our minds to what you want us to know. Help it to be ingrained in our memory, and please help us to be diligent. In Jesus' name, amen.
This is all pretty much review some principles before we go up here. The first couple is about the angels representing the work that God's people to do. I've had a precious opportunity to obtain an experience. I've had an experience in the first, second, and third angels' messages. The angels are represented as flying in the midst of heaven, proclaiming to the world a message of warning and having a direct bearing upon the people living in the last days of this earth's history. No one hears the voice of these angels, for they are a symbol to represent the people of God who are working in harmony with the universe of heaven. The voice of these angels is a symbol of the people of God, and Nehemiah was a cupbearer. I'm going to argue that the cup is the message, and the messengers that go through it's the everlasting gospel where people secure or close their probation. Next quote, Sister Tara Marie.
John saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the whole earth was lighted with his glory. That work is the voice of the people of God proclaiming a message of warning to the world.
So those two quotes together, that's the first, second, third, and fourth angels that are referenced there as symbolizing the work and the voice of the people of God. The next quote is from early writings, very familiar quote in this message, and in the beginning of the paragraph, Sister White comparing the history of Christ with the history of the Millerites, and she's speaking of the Protestants crucifying the messages in their history as certainly as the Jews crucified Christ. You want to just read that bold-faced sentence?
I saw that as the Jews crucified Jesus, so the nominal churches had crucified these messages, and therefore they have no knowledge of the way into the most holy, and they cannot be benefited by the intercession of Jesus there.
These messages at a figurative level are Christ. They can be crucified. These messages are the people of God. These messages are the work of the people of God. It's the voice of the people. Let's go to Exodus 19, verses 16 through 19. Go to Patrick and read. Then Michael can do Isaiah 58:1. And then Brittany, Hebrews 12, 16 through 29. And Christy, Revelation 10:1. Just voice and trumpet now. If these angels represent the work and the voice of the people of God, the voice is the trumpet. Okay, that's the prophetic logic we're just putting in place here, which we probably all understand. Exodus 19.
And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled. And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the nether part of the mount. And Mount Sinai was altogether on a smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire, and the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mount quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice.
Notice that the trumpet has a voice. The voice of a trumpet. That last verse. Isaiah 58:1.
Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression, and the house of Jacob their sins.
Our voice is a trumpet.
Hebrews 12, 16 through 29.
And Paul is commenting on what Patrick read from Exodus.
Lest there be any fornicator or profane person, as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright. For you know how that afterward, when he would have inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. For ye are not come unto the mount that might be touched, and that burned with fire, or nor unto blackness, and darkness, and tempest, and the sound of a trumpet, and the voice of words, which voice that they heard, they that heard entreated that the word should not be spoken to them any more. For they could not endure that which was commanded, and if so much as a beast touched a mountain, it shall be stoned, or thrust through a dart. And so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I exceedingly fear and quake. But ye are come unto Mount Zion, and unto the city of the living God, and heavenly Jerusalem, and to an innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly and church of the firstborn which are written in heaven, and to judge the God of all, and to the spirit of just men made perfect, and to Jesus the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaketh better things than that of Abel. See that ye refuse not him that speaketh. For if they escaped not who refused him that spake on earth, much more shall not we escape if we turn away from him that speaketh from heaven, whose voice then shook the earth, but now he hath promised, saying, Yet once more I shake not the earth only, but also heaven. And this word, yet once more, signifieth the removing of those things that are shaken, as of things that are made, that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. Wherefore we receiving a kingdom which cannot be moved, let us have grace, whereby we may serve God acceptably with reverence and godly fear. For our God is a consuming fire.
So what you read, it starts with the context of Esau rejecting his birthright, one class that rejects the covenant, as opposed to a class that enters into covenant. But part of the story there is that the voice of the Lord is testing us. The voice is the message, but the message is given by Nehemiah, the cupbearer, the butler. Sister Christy?
I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as of a trumpet.
And Brother Jim, last quote from Prophets and Kings. And this is commenting on Jeremiah 25, where he takes the cup to the nations.
Thus saith the Lord of hosts, because ye have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar the king of Babylon, my servant, and I will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all the nations round about, and will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, and a hissing, and perpetual desolations. Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth, and the voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom, the voice of the bride, the sound of millstones, and the light of the candle. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years. Although the sentence of doom had been clearly pronounced, its awful import could scarcely be understood by the multitudes who heard. That deeper impressions might be made, the Lord sought to illustrate the meaning of the words spoken. He bade Jeremiah liken the fate of the nation to the draining of the cup filled with the wine of divine wrath. Among the first to drink this cup of woe was to be Jerusalem and the cities of Judah and the kings thereof. Others were to partake of the same cup. Pharaoh king of Egypt, his servants and his princes, and all his people, and many other nations of earth, until God's purpose should have been fulfilled. See Jeremiah 25.
And what brings his judgment on them is in the first couple phrases of that first paragraph. Because you've not heard my words. It's from the rejection of his word that you fill your cup of probationary time up and receive the cup of indignation. So Nehemiah the cupbearer is illustrating that.
I wrote an interesting verse in John 12 about just what Jesus said about his word that he spoke in John 12:48.
John 12:48.
It says, He that rejecteth me and receiveth not my words hath one that judgeth him. The word that I have spoken, the same shall judge him in the last day. So it's this message, the word is what judges us.
Yep. And the word is the voice, is the trumpet, is the message, is the messengers. So we were dealing with Nehemiah being the cupbearer. This is review kind of. So this is we went class participation in this as we walk through it. Here's Nehemiah the cupbearer, and I contend this history is divided up into a 3-1 combination based upon 3 months and 1 month. We have that in Nehemiah, 4 months, but where else do we have it? Ezra 7:9. We have it in the age of Moses, the time of probationary time for mankind before the flood. So you've got 120 here. But what's the justification for breaking it up 3 and 1? Other than it's a 3-1 combination. What line of prophecy?
Elizabeth's line.
Elizabeth's line.
Not so much the 3-1, but it gives you that there's a 5-1.
Elizabeth is here.
Yes, and it gives you the
This is
justification
5-1.
for splitting is what I was
And where's the justification for 3-1 for splitting it?
3-1 combination.
Pardon me?
3-1 combination.
July 21st.
July 21st?
The Millerite history.
Why is that adjusted? That's just dealing with the waymark here.
What?
But why, if we see 120 days or 4 months at that level, just 120 days or the 4 months, what right have we got to break them apart with 1 month? Okay, let's go to Elizabeth. This is also 6 months. All right, so you're arguing that Elizabeth hides herself for 5 months, and then there is a month that takes you to the midnight cry where she hooks up with Mary and they have the double prophecy. So we have a distinction here in this 5-1 combination. Is there any other distinctions there? A 5-1?
We have the gathering of the manna.
The gathering of the manna?
We place it 5 days gathering from 9/11 to the midnight cry, and then 1 day doubling from midnight cry to Sunday law, but in a fractal sense, you can kind of place it.
Everyone follow that? All right.
This is not for time, but you have Ezekiel 9, you have the 5 men, and then the 1 person with the white linens on with the writer's inkhorn. That's 6 people, but there's 5 more.
Okay, you have 5. What do we call them? This one is the sealing angel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sealing angel. These are the 5 marking angels. How's that? Is there a better way to express it? 5-1. So we have a 3-1 combination in this history, but we have 4 in this history. In several levels, but I'm using Ezekiel 8 here. Everyone get the 4 here in this history?
Did we ever finish off the top 3-1, or did I miss that?
This one, no, we left it hanging.
Okay.
No one came up with an answer. Other than that 3-1 is a symbol.
What do those words on the bottom say? Yeah.
These here?
Yeah.
Image, secret chambers, Tammuz, sun. This is Ezekiel 8.
Yeah.
My answer is that you have a 4-month period in the Millerite history, and it's already split in 3-1. What divides it is July 21st. So you have this 4-month period, and it's split by 3 months and 1 month.
Yeah, but you have to see it somehow in Nehemiah.
No, I'm not worried about Nehemiah. Nehemiah is where we're launching on this, but you can bring any argument in you want. You don't have to bring it from Nehemiah. I wasn't clear about that, Sister Brittany.
Sorry, what is the MA and the SA?
I don't know. There might be a better way to.
Marketing.
There in Ezekiel 9, there are 6 angels. 5 go through and put a mark, or there. No, one goes through and puts the marks. It'd be the marking angel, and the destroying angels.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be it. I don't know. I'm just going to leave it like this. This is the breakdown that. Who brought this up? You?
Tyler.
Who? Tyler. Okay, the 6 angels in Ezekiel 9. But there's a distinction in those 6 angels of a 5-1 combination. And that 5-1 combination has a second witness in this history with Elizabeth, if we can place these sealing angels in this history. Is there a sealing going on in this history from 9/11 to the Midnight Cry?
Yes, the priest.
Yes. Okay, Lawrence.
What Mark said, it might be a different or another witness for the 3-1 combination, because we know that the harvest is at the midnight cry of the priests, right?
Okay.
So, and the latter rain always comes shortly before the harvest. So we kind of have the 3-1 combination there, because the one is also the fourth angel, which is, and we place actually the fourth angel also in July 21, because it's also 1840, right? And therefore we have the fourth angel arriving there July 21, which is also the 1 month, because
Okay, so he's given an argument now that this history is the three angels of Revelation 14, but this history begins with the fourth angel of Revelation 18, because this history in Revelation 9 is 1840 to 44 at one level, and the angel that comes down in 1840 is typifying the angel of Revelation 18, the fourth angel. So you've got the fourth angel marked here for this history, which means it's preceded by the three angels, which that upholds this 3-1 combination. Yeah.
The Mount of Transfiguration, you have John, Peter, and James with Christ. That's 4, but there's 3 disciples in Christ. And then they get to Mount of Transfiguration, and they see Elijah and Moses, midnight cry. So leads up right to it.
Leads up. So you're saying them going up the mountain with Christ is here, and they see.
Yeah. They see Moses and Elijah.
Prove that, and we'll put it in the mix. Sister Tanya.
Nehemiah, we know that Nehemiah had waited 4 months, waiting for the right, perfect time for him to approach the king, or the king to ask him for a question. And then I found out in the Sign of the Times, December 13, 1883, that the wall that Nehemiah built was 3 miles long. So I'm not sure if that has anything with 4-3 combination that we were dealing with the other ones before. And also, the wall was actually only built to half of the size that it was intended to be built at.
I don't know what that has to do with it, but the Lord will open that up. So, are you guys willing to accept Lawrence's application? Because it makes sense to me. I have no problem with it.
The fourth angel is where the latter rain comes, and it has to come before the harvest.
Well, that part, yes, but primarily you can put this angel coming down right here,
Yeah.
and he's the fourth angel, so he can't have a fourth without a first, second, third, right? Sort of. Okay, so what I'm understanding, I don't know about everyone else, is that this period here isn't so much an exclusive period as it's describing the dynamics of the third test in this history. That we know there's a 4 marked here, easy. Okay, 120 days, 4 months. You have these 4 generations. There's 4 in here. But the difficulty for me when we started dealing with the 4 generations of Adventism and realizing that they were put in here is how to put these 4 abominations in a history that is really divided into 1, 2, 3. Okay, the everlasting gospel. And I think the binding off now is teaching us that this 4th is the third angel. It's the binding off. And here's I was looking for a quote we read the other day that I want to put in the record here, that you all know. And this is from your notes from Sunday. It's from Early Writings, page 119. I then saw the third angel, said my accompanying angel, fearful is his work, awful is his mission. He is the angel that is to select the wheat from the tares and seal or bind the wheat for the heavenly garner. So if he's binding the wheat for the heavenly garner, what's he doing with the tares? He's binding them. Okay, for destruction. So this here is describing, I'm arguing, this here is describing the work of the third angel. And there's who's bound first, the tares or the wheat?
Tares.
The tares. Where are the tares bound in this history?
The 3 and the 1. The July 21st.
Right here, the tares are bound. What is this?
The fall of Judas.
The fall of Judas. What is this in terms of 2 Thessalonians?
The falling away.
The falling away first.
But I don't know, I kind of struggle with the specific point in time. I think it's rather a period, because we know that when Matthias comes in there in this 1 month, there must be also a binding of those tares, right? So we have like a progressive binding off from midway to the midnight cry.
Yeah, I don't think you can get away from the fact that the judgment is progressive, but you still have certain waymarks that are put in place sequentially that you got to acknowledge. That's the difficulty that I'm struggling with here, is understanding that this period of time is at one level a point in time. It's something that happens, which includes the progressive testing process. Go ahead.
In Daniel 10, we're told a couple different times that it was 3 full weeks that he was mourning, and then he had the vision of the certain man clothed in linen. So that would be the 3 whole weeks, and then the certain man in linen would come down at the binding off period, just like the 4th angel comes down.
Okay, I was going to get to that because I think in the sermon I did, I suggested, because I focused on 9/11, that in Daniel 10, Daniel is having the experience of all the prophets, so he's at 9/11, and therefore the 21 days preceded it. But I don't think that's right. The 21 days, I agree, I think is in here.
Because it says 3 whole weeks at least 2 times.
So if this is 21 days and this is a period of 3, how many periods? 7. So what would this be?
7.
So do we have a justification for making this 7? And the easy answer is yes.
Because it says completeness in one
Because
way.
you can place the 7 thunders in here. Because you've got a 3-step testing process in here, which is the 46 years, which is the 7 thunders. There's lots of ways to bring a 7 days into here.
The Battle of Jericho deals with the 4 and 7s in that history when they conquered Jericho.
Does everyone follow that logic? Well, we never really put this in place. Do we have a justification from this waymark to this waymark of putting 3 steps?
Esther.
Esther.
She says
3 days.
she fasts for 3 days, and then she goes in to see the king on the first day of the feast, which would be the midnight cry.
Okay. Esther, what else?
Bethpage, Bethany, and the Mount of Olives.
Bethpage, Bethany, and the Mount of Olives. Bethpage, Bethany, Mount of Olives? Is that what you're saying? So there's a second one. Is there any more?
Are you talking about the 7?
No, I'm talking about the 3. Because if you can mark 3 in here, then what are they? What's the classic reference for the 3?
3 angels' messages.
3 angels' messages. And what is the history of the 3 angels' messages in the Millerite time period? When did the first angel arrive? 1798. When did the third angel arrive? 1844. So what is 1798 to 1844?
7 thunders.
It's the 7 thunders. So you have 7 thunders in here. So you got 7 thunders. You got a number 7 marked here to go with these 3 number 7s. 21 days.
Could you also, just like there's a 7 marked after the October 22nd, 1844, they have a disappointment and there's a 7. Would you mark a 7 at each way mark? Would that be like a fractal thing? I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe. Okay, so I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, what in terms of image of the beast, secret chambers, and let me ask you a question. When you say, is it the 4th day of the 5th month, or the 5th day of the 5th day of the 4th month? You're saying that July 21st
In history, it's the 5th day of the 4th
in
month.
history. What's that mean?
In Millerite history, it was the 5th day of the 4th month.
So when you count Millerite history beginning on April 19th,
Yes.
that it is a, what would that be, 125 days down the road?
It's something like that. I'd have to look again.
You're positive it's the 5th?
100% positive.
Okay, so you're saying this is the 5th day of the 4th month. Okay. Does everyone know what he's talking about?
In terms of Ezra 7:9, right?
Ezekiel 1.
No. He's using Gregorian, aren't you?
No.
Okay.
I'm using in terms of Ezra 7:9. When you understand that 419 is the first day of the first month.
Okay, first day, first month in Millerite history equals April 19th.
Then, and you understand that the Midnight Cry is the first day of the 5th month.
First day, 5th month equals
8:15.
August 15th.
When you understand those two times, and you understand that July 21, or sorry, you forget about July 21. You just understand that you have to find the middle point between the 10th day of the 7th month, the first day of the 1st month, and you've already identified the first day of the 5th month. Then counting backwards from the first day of the 5th month, you end up on the 5th day of the 4th month. Basically, the middle point, when you count using the Karaite reckoning, the middle point comes to the 5th day of the 4th month.
Okay, the 5th day of the 4th month. What does that mean? You have a guess? I don't want to hear it.
Ezekiel 1.
Okay, Ezekiel 1, but what does that mean? Go read Ezekiel 1. Someone read Ezekiel 1, 1. 1 and 2.
Now it came to pass in the 13th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river Kibar, that the heavens were opened, and I saw visions of God. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of the king Jehoiachin's captivity.
So, when he saw visions of God, it's the Mara vision. It's not the Mare vision. They're the same word, except this is the feminine. This is the masculine, Mare, right? Everyone with me on that? So this is kind of a stretch. You'd have to have some second witnesses for this one. But Ezekiel, on the 5th day of the 4th month, he sees the Mara vision, and Brown's telling us that after 3 periods of 7 days, that Daniel lines up right here, and what does he see?
The Mara vision.
The Mara vision.
Yep.
And it's on the 5th day of the 4th month in Millerite history.
Wait, say what Daniel, I missed what you said about Daniel.
If we understand that Daniel 10,
Yes,
it's
the
21 days in,
I get it.
he has the Mara vision, then it's placing him right at this waymark, and he's having the same vision that Ezekiel's having.
This, Tyler and I have grappled with this understanding already slightly, because you were identifying Ezekiel at 9/11 because he's by the river, and we were like, why is that so because he's down here too, but the 21 goes before 9/11 as much as it goes after. This is a fractal. Of
The
bigger
21
history.
goes before 9/11 as much as.
As much as it goes. Well, 9/11 is paralleling the point where the angel comes down in the history of Cyrus, right? It's on that level of thought. But we're looking at this fractal, and so the 21 has to scoot over, just like you're saying, so that the
This is
visions-
9/11 where the angel comes down.
Yes. But
This is
then-
1840 where the angel comes
Wait,
down.
that's my point.
Okay.
That's my point. It's a fractal.
Maybe I don't know if this will work, but for your first original question, the 3 months and the 1 month. Last night at prayer meeting, he was talking about the Karaite reckoning, and you have January, February, March, and then when it comes to the barley harvest, every third year they had to add on a month.
Well, it's third or second. Every third or second. I found this out last night.
Okay, I want to get to here.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
About understanding why again does the 21 days take us to the midnight? Why was it again? The reasoning.
I
Daniel praying
believe
for
the
food.
justification of what Daniel's doing during those 21 days lines up with what we should be doing between 9/11 and this binding off period.
Is it maybe?
Yeah, and follow this one. As a secondary confirmation of this. When Daniel is here, if we're saying he's here, if he's here after 21 days, how many times is he going to get touched after that? Three times. Touch, touch, touch. Okay, so the structure is sound if you're willing to see this 20. What is he doing? What is he not doing in this 21 days?
He's not eating pleasant bread, no flesh, no wine, he's mourning, he's fasting.
Public evangelism.
He's not doing any maybe, but he's not eating any pleasant bread, which tells you that he's on what?
A certain diet.
A restricted diet. It's not a worldly diet. It's a restricted diet. Which, when the angel comes down here, that's the test on whether you're going to eat
Pastries.
the food sacrificed to idols or. Okay, so I'm thinking that the Mara vision is marked here at the beginning of this history. But I want to get to here. The 4 generations. What's the image of jealousy at 9/11? What is that referencing?
Image of jealousy.
It's a test, right? 9/11, we're going to be confronted with the sins of our fathers. There are 4 of them, 4 general ones. And the first one in Ezekiel 8 is the image of jealousy. And every pagan counterfeit in here is that. It's a counterfeit. What is the image of jealousy in Ezekiel 8 the counterfeit of? What is the genuine image of jealousy?
Christ in us, the hope.
There's a true.
What the,
The genuine image of jealousy.
Is
what?
He's jealous for you.
How do you know he's jealous for
He
you?
says it in the Bible.
It's the second commandment.
It's in the 10 Commandments. It's the only commandments that defines his character in such specificity.
Start with specify
But also,
Specify.
and then build on.
Specificity.
but also in the Old Testament, we know that the test of when a husband was jealous of his wife, the test that the woman had to go through because he is suspecting her of being immoral, it was a test for her to see whether her belly will swell up or not, as if she was being unfaithful. So we're dealing with the marriage issue too.
The image of jealousy is the 10 Commandments. Where do we see the 10 Commandments introduced into Millerite history or into sacred history?
The beginning of
At Sinai. And what is Aaron doing at the same time? He's making a counterfeit image of jealousy. All right. The commandment that talks about not making any graven images is defining that God's character is that he's a jealous God. So the genuine image of jealousy, that can mean a lot of things, but the perfect application of it is the 10 Commandments. How is the 10 Commandments our first test?
The 2 charts.
The 2 charts. The old past. This is the returning to the old path. Choosing whether you're going to accept these two tables that have been typified by the image of jealousy. What's this one?
Spiritualism.
Exalting man's word above.
Putting man's word above God's word, and what does it produce?
The image.
A false name.
Someone said it.
The image of
Spiritual.
It's spiritualism. When you put your word above God's word, it's spiritualism. You might pass this test. You might go ahead and get into the movement where that you stand in front of these two charts and preach to people. But the second test in this history is, are you going to submit your word to God's word or vice versa? And right here, you can fail in this test. What's the next test?
False latter-rain message.
False latter-rain message, weeping for a Tammuz. And what is the false latter-rain message that lines up with this waymark?
A wonderful work in the cities.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of right answers, but I'm thinking of Pergamos and Thyatira. I'm thinking of 2 Thessalonians.
Falling away first.
Okay, it's at the falling away first. What happens at the falling away first to someone that has failed these three tests?
Strong delusion.
Also, the prophets
Strong
are cutting
delusion.
themselves right there. It's in the middle of the day, and he's asking them, "Where are your gods?" And they start cutting themselves, and that's a false latter-rain message.
So they're here. They've fallen away. They're receiving the strong delusion. What are they going to do next?
Worship sun.
They've prepared themselves to bow down to the sun. And how many of them are there? How many of them are there that do this?
25. Oh,
Nice.
Do we have any other references to 25 in this history?
Yes.
What are they?
The 25 years where the persecution ended.
Okay, if this is, and it is, the 1260 of wilderness for the papacy, the last 25 years,
and I think it was one more.
And
it's what?
I think it was not only this.
And we have 25 days from July 21 to
25 days.
October 22nd. To the Exeter Camp meeting. I mean,
So 25 is in here. 25 men bowing down to the sun. 25 days from here to here. 25 years where the persecution ceases.
It's 25 days from. Oh, did you say? Never mind. Cool.
Dude, that was your punchline and you didn't get to get it because you had to flee the scene. Okay, so what are they doing in here? And I'm contending that because they're receiving, I don't know how to express it. I'm not sure that I understand it fully. We're talking about the foolish virgins right now of the history of the priest, and this will no doubt be repeated in the history of the Levites. So it's.
I would think they would be settling in.
No, but no, not think. What are they doing here?
Bowing down.
They're bowing down.
Turning their back.
Do we see a bowing down here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Who bows down here?
Abigail.
Abigail. Who else?
There's another.
Don't guess unless you know, unless you can defend it. We don't want to throw them in the mix unless they're valid. How does Abigail bow down here?
She gets off the ass at the covert and she bows before David.
So this is the covert. What's the covert?
Daniel bows right there. The same with
Daniel
10.
bows here. Revelation 10 is facing the ground. So you're showing righteous bowing, but here, what is this? This is the
Counterfeit.
This is the counterfeit bowing down, and they're doing it right here. This is an argument that these two generations are taking place right here together. They're receiving the false latter rain, and they're bowing down to the sun.
Also, during this period isn't the time for us to be standing, and it's proved by Daniel 10 because even when he was touched, he was still kept on his knees. So I believe that Daniel goes through a progressive. He bows down, then during this binding off, he's on his knees, and then at the midnight cry.
Well, we'll look at that perhaps in a minute, but
Shouldn't that bowing down come first?
what bowing down?
The counterfeit?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Counterfeit always precedes the real.
Okay, here is the the dilemma that I have already said here, and I don't know how to express it. You have 4 abominations, and you have a 3-step testing process from here to here that is going to produce 2 classes of worshipers. But this history, I'm arguing, is the 3rd step testing process. So it has a progressive nature to it, but it has a singular nature to it. It's in this history where you're going to see both classes manifested. One bowing down to Christ, one bowing down to Satan. So at one level, you see the falling away, the tares bound first, and then the wheat bound here. But I'm saying, even though we've got a period here, at one level it's a point of time, and I don't know how to express it.
Well, you can actually say it's a binding off because it's for one or the other, and
Yeah, well,
the
you're
end, the very
arguing
end,
you're arguing that you can't have both classes bowing at the same point.
It doesn't matter. It's all progressive. It'll all end up.
Oh, so now you're retracting your question. Okay, that's good.
They're either getting bound for the faggots of
Yeah, fires
It
of
doesn't
destruction.
It doesn't matter if one's getting that happening right before
No, it
the
doesn't matter.
righteous.
Sister Brown,
It's Jay.
Brother Jason.
The Levites started their service at age 25.
And Numbers 8:24.
Yes, they're 25 years old when they start their service, the Levites.
So they start serving in this binding off period at 25.
Really, they don't start serving here at the end of it.
But this is
This introduces the Levites.
Yes, 25 is an intro to the Levite.
Their 25th year of life.
Yeah. Brings it to that point.
And so what year of life would we expect Ruth and the 11th hour workers to be introduced?
25. That's the intro for the guys now. From now on.
Okay, for the intro is 25. So how long did the Levites serve?
Till they died.
25 years.
Till they were 50.
50.
25 years.
But that's outside the scope of it. All right.
That's great. 50 is right there at Pentecost.
50 is at Pentecost. Whoa.
And it's a double of 25.
Well, and then you have from the midnight cry to the Sunday law is 25, showing that the binding off period is the same as the midnight cry to the Sunday law.
Okay, he's saying if you have this 25 years for the Levite service, that this is the big one, and this is this little part of this fractal, so you got the 25, 25.
Right, I agree.
Yeah.
That's the big first.
That's really cool.
The 50, I've seen this stuff, but I didn't see the 50 there.
Yeah,
that's cool.
perfect, isn't it? That's
It
God.
always is.
It's Palmoni.
Because you have the 4 abominations, because they're the last 2 or deal with bowing. Could the bowing be what brings it together so you get 3 in 1? Does that make sense?
Well, the 3 in 1's there.
But if you have the people at weeping at Tammuz, they're worshiping, they're bowing, and then at the sun they're also worshiping, and then you have, so that would bring them together, and then you would have, you lose one, sorry.
So where does probation close for the priests? Is it the midnight cry or is it the covert? Because when you say progressive versus point in time,
We've always taught now, and
It
I
seems like
stand
the same.
on that you have a character developed before. So the midnight cry is probably, and I haven't thought this through, so I'm open for correction. This is where you're going to manifest for everyone to see, whether you're a counterfeit priest or a genuine priest. But if we can understand that this is not simply a period of time, but it's a point in time, that this is the climax, the number 3, where both classes do their thing, then at one level this comes to right here. And it causes some problems because, like Kathy pointed out, we know that the tares are bound first, and we're saying this is the binding off period for both of them. And what I just said, if you didn't follow me, is that what goes on here in this period of time can probably all be placed right there at that point in time. And then you are contradicting some things by doing so. But I don't know how to get around it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No.
No? Yes?
No, I do.
Okay, so what goes on here? Now let's go. If I don't know if this is the next place to go, but in Daniel 10, if we're applying the 21 days correctly, that at 9/11 Daniel understood both the Debar and the Mare. Okay, and I'm saying the Debar equals
Calzone.
the Calzone. And the Mare, okay, is the masculine of this. Yeah, this is the vision of prophetic history, and this is the appearance of Christ. He has a personal, he moves into the most holy place, he sees the glory of God, he sees prophetic history. But there's something extra special that takes place down here in the binding off period that's represented by the Mara.
In Time of the End, you talk about the two rivers, and you talk about how one is the events connected with the closed probation, and the other is the necessity of preparation for the closed probation, something like that. So, would it be accurate to say that the Debar is the events connected with the closed probation, and the Mare is the appearance of Christ, and thus the recognition of the need of preparation for the closed probation? You line Hideko. Because that would put the two rivers.
It's probably valid to say lots of things. The Debar would be the appearance, though. I think you can argue it's marking 9/11 as much as anything else, because in Acts chapter 3, when he's talking about the latter rain, he says he will send Jesus Christ. Okay, so the appearance of Jesus Christ at 9/11 is marking the beginning of the judgment of the living. So in one sense, Daniel understands the judgment of the living, the latter rain has begun. Okay, without dealing with him seeing his character and his glory. But what's this?
Isn't can Mare also be placed as equal to the 2300 days with the vision of Christ in the sanctuary, and at the bar, the Calzone dealing with the 2520?
Yeah, lots of things.
So,
the vision of prophetic history is 2520. The vision of the cleansing of the sanctuary, the 2300.
So the Calzone is also basically the will within the will that Ezekiel is experiencing, seeing it when he's having the Mara vision. Actually goes into very detail, the intricate work of...
Well, so the 2300 is the will within the will, without a doubt. The 2300 has the first time prophecy of 49 years. That's a will that you can see in the Jubilee. You can see.
One is dealing with internal events, and one is dealing with the external events, and how they're kind of mingled in. That way, God's plan can be fulfilled.
Perhaps all I'm saying is they're both the wills.
Correct. Just at different levels.
Yeah, but even the 2520 is internal. It's about like the host.
It's like mingling human with divine, which eventually will give you the Mara. The reflection of Christ in you, because you no longer exist. Christ is reflecting you to your mirror.
Okay, back to this. That Tyler brought up. These 6 angels, the sealing angels in Ezekiel 9. What are they doing?
Destroying.
Separating, distinguishing.
What are they then? If they're separating,
Third angel.
they're the third angel's message, but they're divided up into a what?
5-1.
And this one here is what?
The destroyer.
Writer has the writer's inkhorn.
He's the sealing angel. He would be in here. And who is he? Christ. And who are these? His messengers. Together, what are they?
Humanity and divinity.
Combined, doing a work. What work are they doing?
Purification.
They're the trumpet message. They're the cup message for this history and the priests. They're doing the everlasting gospel, right? Any other input on these things before we go a different direction. Yes.
It's just a thought and might be just confusion, but with the angels, it's actually here the other way around.
1-5. I just
1-5.
thought
Yeah.
literally at the same time.
Because first we have this marking angel and then the 5 angels come. So we have it reversed. It's a 1-5 combination.
Ah.
He marks first and then they go through with the destroyer.
Yeah, I don't know how to. Where's the destruction take place? If we're even not even there technically. The general destruction of the wicked, she says, speaking of that very chapter. So I think it's valid to see them in here just the way they are. But I get your point. But I mean, when you're talking about the destroying angels, Sister White specifically says that the destruction that they accomplish takes place in the general destruction of the wicked, which is in the 7 last plagues time period. So she's taking that and putting it way down there. But in this history, you have what they're symbolizing is the sealing message of the 3 angels that's accomplished by humanity and divinity. But I get your point. If we have to be corrected on that, so be it. Let's go to Daniel 10 then, if there's no other.
I have one comment, but I'll look at it closer this weekend. In 1 Kings 22, we're told about Jehoshaphat, and he reigned for 25 years, and during his reign, that's when the ships of Tarshish were broken. So I don't know where we can lay him yet, but I'm seeing that there is some connection either for Jehoshaphat during this binding off period, or even from 9/11 to the midnight cry. In 1 Kings 22 it starts and it goes over to Chronicles. But if we're going to start looking at the 25 year, we could probably find some truth out of
Second Kings 22?
1 Kings 22, it talks, but in the Chronicles is when it really goes into, the truth of it. But in 1 Kings 22, verse 42, it says he reigned 25 years. And then if you go to 1 Kings 22:48, that's when you see those ships of Tarshish being broken. So those two things are enough for me to know that it's dealing with what we're dealing with. And
1 Kings 22 what?
42. He reigned 25 years in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
30 and 5.
No, he was 35 when he began to reign.
And he reigned for 25.
25 years. Yeah.
And in 48 it talks about the ships of Tarshish being broken with their gold in it. So we know there's a connection there even though we haven't started looking at it yet.
Economic crash.
Yeah, there's an economic crash, and we know Jehoshaphat had quite the experience.
So we're saying that this is typified by the reign of Jehoshaphat?
I'd like to look at it careful, but I think it probably has a large fractal, and that's probably its smaller one.
And this would be...
After the Tarshish has been broken.
Okay, so go to Daniel 10. Let's do 2 verses each, and we'll look at the 3 times Daniel is touched here and see if we see anything that would contribute to these 3 tests in the binding off period, or the 3 markers in the binding off period. Verse 1. In the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel. What's a thing? Debar, cow's own vision. Whose name was called what? So what do you have there? 9/11. Name change, covenant. And the thing was true, but the time appointed was long, and he understood the thing and had understanding of the vision. What's the vision? Mare. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks.
I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth, neither did I anoint myself at all till 3 whole weeks were fulfilled. And in the 24th day of the 1st month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel.
Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning. and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude.
And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision, for the men that were with me saw not the vision, but a great quaking fell upon them, so that they fled to hide themselves. Therefore I was left alone, and saw this great vision, and there remained no strength in me, for my comeliness was turned in me into corruption, and I retained no strength.
Let's talk about those. What's being taught about the two classes of worshipers in those last couple verses?
One flee to hide themselves, and the other ones stand and see the vision, or fall and see the vision.
One sees the vision.
Yeah, one sees.
Both are confronted with the vision.
Both are confronted with the vision. And what happens to the one class? A great quaking.
They're shaken.
One's
37.
humble, one's shaking.
What?
It's also Ezekiel 37.
Why?
We have the shaking there.
There's a message that causes a shaking.
One's humbled and one's shaking.
And they hide themselves.
Okay, so when they're hiding themselves, where are they hiding
In
themselves?
the rocks.
It depends on where you lay it,
In the
because you
tower.
could put the hiding at 9/11 when it starts, or on a smaller scale you could.
There's a hiding going on in there in that period. If we're putting the Mara right
The ones
there
that are hiding are
at
the wicked, aren't they?
yeah, the wicked here are
Still.
being hidden.
And they're hiding themselves according to Isaiah 28.
Kind of like when the final destruction comes, they
Hide
Right.
themselves in the
In the
caves and the
rocks.
rocks.
yeah.
Hide us from the wrath of the Lamb.
Yes.
Okay, so they're perceiving the wrath of the Lamb. Daniel's perceiving the Mara vision. Go ahead.
They're hiding in a refuge of lies in the water,
Oh,
in the hiding place. It says in Isaiah 28 that
Read
the
it.
refuge. It says, "Judgment also will I lay to the line." 17, verse 17. "Judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet. And the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the water shall overflow the hiding place." So they're hiding in this hiding place.
where's judgment?
What do you mean? In
Well, these guys, their hiding begins at the beginning of the binding up period.
At midnight cry.
Judgment he will lay to the line.
yeah.
That's the third test. And then they run to hide. And he sweeps away their hiding place. Anyway.
There's in 1 Kings 22, where Bronwyn started talking about Jehoshaphat, in verse 25.
You haven't been following along with us?
No,
You
I
still been back in
haven't.
1 Kings?
But there's a hiding in verse 25.
And what's it say?
And Micaiah said, "Behold, thou shalt see in that day when thou shalt go into an inner chamber to hide thyself." And the margin for the word "into" means go from chamber to chamber, and then the phrase "in an inner chamber" means a chamber within a chamber.
The secret chamber.
Secret chamber.
We don't want it to
Sounds-
be the secret chamber.
But it sounds
It's
like
putting it back here one step before we get there.
Yeah, but and then he's asked to go hide himself there. But it sounds like Amos 8:11 and Ezekiel's wheels within wheels.
But it's chamber within the chamber, so it looks like it's moving. Chamber within chamber.
Okay.
Sorry.
Nice idea. Where were we? We were in Daniel 10. Okay? So we see two classes. One flees from the Mara vision. Daniel sees the Mara vision. Brother Michael.
Yet heard I the voice of his words, and when I heard the voice of his words, then was I in a deep sleep on my face, and my face toward the ground. And behold, an hand touched me, which set me upon my knees and upon the palms of my hands.
So what was Daniel? He was touched, but what was he before he was
He was
touched?
on his
Deep
face.
sleep
He
on
was
his
on his
face.
He was
face.
sleeping.
He's a little deep.
Is this about the parable of the 10 virgins?
Yeah.
Amen.
Okay, so he's sleeping. When do the virgins wake up?
Midnight.
They begin.
Midnight cry?
The disciples still
Midnight?
were asleep when
Around
Jesus was
midnight.
praying.
They begin to kind of rub their eyes.
Yeah.
Some
A
of
little bit before.
Okay, yeah, it's in here that they're awakened,
Right.
but they're fully aroused here.
Right.
So Daniel is sleeping in here, right? But he's touched one time.
Well,
That's the 6th hour that he wakes up. Is that what we're calling it?
The 6th hour.
Right.
And this is the 9th, right? Sister Tanya?
So can we line that up with the night of Gethsemane when Jesus is praying and he's basically reaching out to the disciples actually 3 times. First, please pray with me. Then the second time, please pray with me. He says, now go on and sleep on because the hour is here or something like that.
Probably so. What's he accepting during this period?
The cup.
The cup.
Exactly.
For who?
For all humanity.
So are we missing anything on these verses? If we're trying to stick them in here. Next 2 verses, Sister
But you
Brittany.
never got to what Daniel was doing when he was on the ground.
What was he doing?
I deep
Praying.
on my face.
He was sleeping.
He
Oh,
was asleep.
sorry,
He
face
was
towards
asleep.
the ground.
He was in a deep sleep.
A deep sleep.
He actually points out twice that he was with his face, sleep on my face and my face towards the
So
ground.
his face is toward the ground. What is he doing? If your face is toward the ground, what are you doing? You're bowing down. Okay, there's a bowing down that goes on here with Abigail and with the 25 leaders of Jerusalem. Sister Brittany?
Verse 11, and he said unto me, O Daniel, man greatly beloved, understand the words that I speak unto thee, and stand upright, for unto thee am I now sent. And when he had spoken this word unto me, I stood trembling. Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, from the first day that thou didst set thine heart to understand and to chasten thyself before thy God, thy words were heard, and I am come for thy word.
What happens to him here?
That would be like Jeremiah when they were set up on their feet. When they
That was Ezekiel.
I mean Ezekiel. I meant Ezekiel.
Ezekiel 2:1 and Ezekiel 37,
Right.
9 through 11.
Right.
And so, but what does
The first day. Oh.
The second touch.
That's the
the
second.
no? But in verse 11,
No.
what does he do?
He stands.
If the Lord speaks, the crazy old thought, can God create a rock that's too big for him to lift up? No, he can't. Okay, but that's not the issue. That wasn't the illustration I wanted to use. It's the wrong one. When Christ speaks, what happens? It is automatically.
Right.
So in verse 11, the first couple phrases, what's it say? Because when he speaks it, it has to happen.
Understand
right
the words.
there.
Understand their words. So what's Daniel doing right here?
When he stands, he understands
He's understanding what?
The vision.
the words that he speaks in
The
the
voice.
There's a message that he's understanding here. Right there at that point. Have we been seeing this? That there's a message opened up to this people here?
Yes.
The message is opened up all along, by the way. But he's having understanding of the words, and he stands upon his feet. And in Ezekiel 2:1 and Ezekiel 37, 9 through 11, Ezekiel stands up when he understands a message, but in Ezekiel, what is the message he understands?
To go to the houses.
To eat the scroll or whatever he ate.
In Ezekiel 37, what does he
Ah,
understand?
4 winds.
The message of the 4 winds. The message of Islam. Go ahead. We'll
Are we placing Daniel 10 now from 9/11 to the midnight cry, or just at that from midnight to midnight cry? Because we were just playing around and I don't.
We haven't been playing around at all here. This is
I
by design,
understand.
believe it or not.
I understand that Daniel is touched 3 times, and you place that Daniel is touched 3 times from midnight to midnight cry. Right?
Right? That's right.
So that's okay.
But Daniel 10 begins
And so
with
he-
21 days of fast, so it starts from 9/11
Okay.
to the midnight cry.
Okay, so and then we have Mara, and then touched up.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts on verses 11 and 12 before we move on?
Well, we see
There's-
Daniel that he was on his face, then on his knees, and then he's standing.
Yeah.
We see 3 stages of him climbing to standing position. And right here, when the angel told him to stand, it says, "Stand upon thy standing." That's what it would come in Hebrew. Come up, stand upon thy standing.
So, progressive, a 3-step progressive lifting up.
And it's within that first
Touch.
He's face, knees, standing. So you have this, you know.
And it's all dealing with
3 steps within the first touch.
Yes.
Sister Brown.
I think it's important that when he says, understand the words that I speak unto thee, that we go look at the words that he speaks unto thee, and it's the Chazon version. Even if he's experiencing the Mara, he's going back and being explained the Chazon vision. That's what it.
What's on the board?
What shall befall thy people in the latter day?
What's on the board?
It looks sequential though.
What's on the board?
Chazon.
That's the Chazon vision.
Mm-hmm.
So he's taking him back to 9/11, or are we not doing it sequentially?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, we're putting him at July 21st.
That's 9/11 at 1/9.
Yeah, that's.
9/11, but even if not even worried about the fractals. If he's given new light at July 21st, at the beginning of the binding off period, new light never contradicts old light. It's going to be a further development of something that is already being understood. So he has an understanding of the Chazon and the Mare at 9/11, but the light. What does prophecy is a light that does what? Increases until the perfect day. It's not going to be a totally new revelation. I don't believe that's not consistent with what prophecy is.
Where do we mark the first day that he set his heart to understand?
9/11. That's what he comes.
Daniel 7.
Oh, you want to take it back to Daniel 7?
Isn't that the first day? In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed, and he wrote a dream, and it told the sum of the matters. And then Daniel 8:1 is referring back to Daniel 7:1.
Yes.
So Daniel 8.
Why are you Daniel 8?
I'm just saying, because verse 12 says, "Then said he unto me, Fear not, Daniel, in the first day that God had set that."
Okay, the context of that chapter is back to verse 1 of chapter 10. He's going to start a 21-day fast to understand something. But prophetically, he's trying to understand the Chazon and Mare, which is Daniel 7, 8, 9, all the way through. But specifically, it's Daniel 10.
And he's representing us, right? And as I see it first, he's on his face, and he goes to his knees, and he stands up. And it's how he responds to the words that Christ has given him. And it's the same way with us. It's how we will respond to the message that we are given, as far as how we begin to progressively get up, or otherwise we'll fall backward, be broken, snared, taken, whatever all those words are.
Next 2 verses.
But the prince of the kingdom of Persia withstood me 21 days. But lo, Michael, one of the chief princes, came to me to help me, and I remained there with the kings of Persia. Now I am come to make thee understand what shall befall thy people in the latter days, for yet the vision is for many days.
That's the Chazon vision then.
So, what's Gabriel telling him there? Put it into context of this. Where was Gabriel when he was dealing with the kings of Persia? Who's the king of Persia? Who's the kings of Persia? Who's the king of Persia? When does this struggle take place?
United States. No?
The king.
You mean who's the prince of Persia?
The kings of Persia would be the rulers, but the prince of Persia is Satan. And he's struggling with Satan, Gabriel is, and then Michael comes down, resolves this conflict, and then they go to Daniel.
When?
At the end of the 21 days. I would say right here where he's at this
We
point
talked
in the
about
5th day of the
Cyrus
4th month.
in the last class. That's the struggle when Cyrus was going through, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
And so, what is that typifying classically, but we're primarily 9/11,
Okay, first.
when the angel comes down and empowers the first
Yep.
first decree. But what are we saying now?
That it's also
That it would be the
July 21st.
midnight.
July 21st.
July 21st.
And Brother Lawrence has already put it in the record today. Why is that okay? Because this binding up period begins
Before
1840 to 1844.
Which
And
is the angel comes out.
when the angel comes down, so it's valid, but it's at first view it's very confusing. But
That's what you think about the wheels within the wheels.
the wheels
But
within
then
the
as you
wheels.
start understanding it more, it's just this perfect unison of events and
So when the angel
things
comes
happen.
down on July 21st or on 8/11, what's it marking in terms of 1840?
He's coming. Okay, I might be out of this, but he's coming to make him understand the wheels within wheels. What shall befall thy people? Sister White's clear that these wheels within wheels, the complicated
Play of human events.
Yeah,
And Ezekiel's vision is open. The heavens are open unto Ezekiel, and he sees these wheels within wheels. So he's seeing the complicated play of human events, and this is what Daniel's seeing. This, and he's about to get Daniel 11, which is a complicated play of human events. So.
Okay,
that's
so
what it seems like.
he's understanding that at 9/11, and then he's understanding it at July 21st.
Yeah.
So in July 21st, he's understanding the same thing, but it's got to be some new light about it.
It's bigger. It's whoa. I understand.
Is he understanding every effect of every vision mingled together?
Yeah.
I think.
The
that-
But I
internal
think that
and the
is the
external
lineup on
events?
line. That's the wheel within the wheel.
all of it.
The internal and the external and the internal events mingled together to actually
What's
for the
confirmed?
purpose of God?
What's confirmed on July 21st in terms of 1840 to 1844? I asked a question about that guy, that history, and you guys passed it by. I'll put it in the record.
Day of Prince.
It's the glorious manifestation of the power of God from July 21st till the midnight cry. It's also the glorious manifestation of the power of God from 9/11 to the midnight cry, or 9/11 to the Sunday law. But what is confirmed? We discussed this yesterday or the day before on 1840.
The day of Prince.
prophetic method of
The
study.
rules of interpretation adopted by Miller and his associates. So the line upon line, the effect of every vision is being confirmed on July 21st. Yeah.
So if we're taking that and applying it to our day, that we're going to have what we're going to understand what shall be by thy people in the latter days, then we need to explain for yet the vision for many days. That will apply perfectly to us. For yet the vision is for many days. So are we going to call that
When do you place that statement?
between the midnight cry and the Sunday law is my expectation, but I don't know why. Is that
No, but when does
1260?
when does it say the vision is yet for many days?
On the 14th.
Vision is yet.
There's
In Daniel
many
11.
days.
Yeah, well,
It's in the latter
it says it in verse 14, but when does it first say it? In verse 1, the time appointed is long.
So we have to
And-
understand from the midnight cry forward, there's a long appointed, not literally, but there's no time appointed still.
No.
Many
Let me
days.
finish.
The
Let me
many
finish.
is-
Let me
is
finish.
applied
This word
to-
appointed is not the same word as appointed time.
Okay.
Sometimes this word gets translated as great controversy. Okay, it's a different word. This is the vision of the great controversy.
Explain that
And
again.
it's long. In verse 1, it says the time appointed was long. Look it up in the Hebrew.
It was great.
Was great. And some, I think it's Moffat, even takes this word appointed in connection with this word long and says great controversy. And Moffat didn't know anything about the great controversy. So at 9/11, what's opened up to God's people is what's going to befall God's people in the last days. And what's going to befall God's people in the last days, as we understand it now, is a purification of the priest and a purification of the Levites. And we're even seeing the purification of Ruth and the 11th hour workers. But the time is long. But I don't think it's so long. Final movements are rapid ones, but it's a period of time.
I'm not talking about time. I don't misunderstand me. I don't think we have a long period. I just want us to label that time appointed.
Okay, so in verse 14, I would contend that here he's letting them know what's going to befall his people in the last days. It's the same thing as verse 1, only it's more specific to July 21st.
Oh, you think the midnight cry is that between the July 21st and the midnight cry is that time appointed?
No, the time appointed is this whole history, the great controversy. It's the whole purification process. What befalls thy people in the last days? They're going to get spewed out of the mouth of the Lord, or they're going to get the seal of God on it.
But it means for yet. When you see for yet, it's saying that where you're at now, there's something ahead of you. For yet.
Yep.
In the mini,
I don't think that denies what I
and
just
I don't know
said.
if it matters or anything, but it says that the mini is supplied, so it's for, it's the vision is for days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably means nothing.
Next two verses, whoever's turn it is. Go ahead, wait a second.
Something-
You don't remember what it
let me
was?
think about it. I had it in my mind up until when I tried to speak.
Oh, that's scary, Michael. You're too young.
15 and 16.
And when he had spoken such words unto me, I set my face toward the ground and became dumb. And behold, one like the similitude of the sons of men touched my lips, and then I opened my mouth and spake. And he said unto him that stood before me, O my Lord, by the vision my sorrows are turned upon me, and I have retained no strength.
What to do here?
So he's down back on
Bones
his
down.
face again. Down on the ground. His face down.
So we're saying in the history of the first touch, he's on the ground, on his knees, and standing up.
And he's dumb.
Okay, and at the end, at the third step, he goes back down to the ground again. Because he bowed at the third step to get him to July 21st. When he gets to July 1st, which is a 3-step process, he bows down. And the first waymark then, he goes through a 3-step process, he ends up bowing down again. Now what's he going to touch?
Would he be in the same
Lips.
same time period as Zacharias when he was struck dumb because he became dumb?
I don't know, it'd be pretty hard to put that one in there because he's going to speak right then and there, whereas Zacharias doesn't speak for the whole period of time. But he's touching his lips now. In the last touching waymark, he's told to understand the message. But when he's touching his lips, what's that implying in terms of Isaiah 6? But you can say what you got
Giving
to
a
say.
message.
Get
To
ready.
speak.
Give the message now.
Yeah, to speak.
Maybe just a thought on it. We know it's the second step,
Yep.
which is also the incarnation, right? Because on the bigger level, we have it marked on the midnight cry, the second step. And I think it might mean that here Daniel, his humanity dies when he gets struck down and he's on his face again, and then his lips are touched, which is the incarnation. Isaiah 6. And then he speaks, but it's now Christ speaking through him.
I don't have a problem with seeing the incarnation there. But I think in the first touch, he has understanding the message, and now he's going to present the message.
Where's our first touch so I can start labeling down the line? Is
10.
it July 21st? Where are we
Yeah,
at?
well, I'm saying if we accept all these premises that we laid in place, his first touch is at July 21st, and he's going to be touched 3 times to get to the midnight cry.
Yeah, because there was silence marked yesterday between July 21st and the midnight cry, so the striking dumb would line up with that
Oh,
silence.
yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, but yeah, no doubt about it. It's marked there, but he speaks in this second touching too.
Yeah.
It's interesting that in Daniel 8:18 he's touched, in Daniel 9:21 he's touched, and then in Daniel 10 he's touched 3 times. It's actually a total of 5 touching.
So if we're saying, I don't know if Daniel helps us figure out our conundrum a little more, but so there's the great quaking, and the 2 groups are separated. But there's still something Daniel has to go through before he can be used as a mouthpiece at the midnight cry, in theory, if that's what's being laid out here. So initially what we had said is there's a work of purification that still has to take place in Daniel, representing the priests who came before. So maybe, I'm trying to figure out the probation thing and the 3 steps in 1 step, though. So maybe that sort of helps that. There's a whole purification process again that they need to go through. I don't know if that solves that, though.
Next 2 verses. whatever they are.
17.
It's 5 minutes till, I think.
3 minutes.
You guys came in late this morning. So I will set you a good example and we'll stop here and take this up on Sunday. I want to get through Daniel 10. We're getting quite good. Sister Claire Marie, you want to pray?
Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this morning and for the time of worship and studying and understanding, and I pray that you will continue to open these things to our hearts and minds and be with us also this day. Help us to get the things accomplished that need to be, that we can enter into your rest that is coming soon for the Sabbath. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.